hear this, you are not alone. This is the Resistance.
What's up, everyone? This is the Tin Man with the Resistance. If you're watching this, you are the Resistance. In the big news in the world right now is Duck Dynasty star Phil Robertson. He has been suspended and possibly even kicked off of the show for giving his personal opinions concerning homosexuality and for even making some racial remarks. And I personally have a problem with that. Not because I'm a fan of the show or support anything that he said, because I don't. I take issue with this because, one, we've got all this shit going on in the world, such as the NSA and so on, yet the media is focusing on this crap as a distraction for real-world issues. But that's nothing new. My second point here is I take issue because this is concerning freedom of speech. You know, Oprah could say that all elderly white people should die because they're supposedly racist. And that's all okay, and nobody says squat. But this guy gives his personal opinions and gets chastised for it? Seriously? Are we in fucking backwards land or what? Yeah, I know his comments were offensive and all that, but so were Oprah's. And in my opinion, if you're going to punish one person, then you have to punish the other. But to be perfectly honest, why should anyone be punished? I mean, don't we have a little thing called freedom of speech and freedom of expression in this country? Yeah, it was offensive, but that's his right. You know, freedom of speech is a two-way street. If a person has the right to be openly gay or whatever, then others have the right to openly support or oppose it, whether for personal or religious reasons. You may not like it, and you may make those feelings known. And that's your right. Just as it's their right to not like something you do or say, you know, it's not a crime. It's not a crime to have an opinion or exercise your freedom of speech. So, like it or not, people are just going to have to learn to deal with it. If you want people to accept you and your shit, then you need to accept others and their shit as well. Now, case in point. And to be perfectly honest, I gotta ask, what did this guy say that was so racist? All he did was talk about the shit he witnessed in his life where it relates to his interactions and having worked with the African American community. That's not racist to give your personal accounts of something from the past. And, you know, it's not as though the network wasn't aware of the kind of people the family were when they approached them for the show. These network executives and the writers, you know, did extensive research on this family, and they knew the kind of people that they were dealing with. So they can't go getting pissed off when somebody in that family is being themselves when you created a reality show depicting their lives where they're being themselves. You know, it's kind of an oxymoron there. I mean, you might as well hire Ron White to do a show knowing about his issues with alcohol and then get pissed off and punish him when he shows up drunk off his ass. Seriously. Just the shit you see in the world. My last issue, moving on, my last issue here is he was right in his comments as per the Bible, God's law, and Christian beliefs. People taking part in such things will not inherit the kingdom of God. You may not like it, but that's the way it is. That's what it is. That's what it says in the Bible. And anyone who believes in the biblical God has to accept that those are his rules. Accept that, it's God's way or the highway. And that's just the way it is. And on another point, he's right in that everything is blurred on what's right and wrong in this day and age. If you don't think so, think about the past 60 plus years. In America, we have become a very lenient society on what has become socially acceptable, especially in regards to sex. In the 1950s, sex was something private between a married man and woman. Things like sex outside of marriage, pornography, interracial relationships, homosexuality, bestiality, incest, sex with a minor. Those were all in the same category as unacceptable and illegal taboos and were big no-nos. Hell, when you look back to that time in history, things like Elvis gyrating his hips was considered by many to be extremely offensive. Hell, we were so uptight back then that TV actors didn't even share the same bed on screen. If you don't believe that, watch some old I Love Lucy episodes. Ricky and Lucy didn't share the same bed. They had two separate beds. That's just how uptight we were as a society back then. But thanks to people like Martin Luther King, Hugh Hefner, Elvis Presley, Madonna, and so many others, over time we have become and are still becoming more accepting and lenient when it comes to our moral and ethical standards in entertainment and society. Now, depending on which side of the fence you are on with this issue, you may consider that to be society lowering its standards, or you may consider it to be society becoming more tolerant. But either way we look at it, the fact still remains that many things that were taboo no-nos back in the day have or will soon become socially acceptable. If you still don't think so, look around the internet. Spend a little time researching this, as well as look at the statistics concerning today's society in regards to sex. And then tell me taboos aren't becoming socially acceptable. In fact, let's read off some of the statistics here. 27% of Americans confess to having sex with a family member. 11% of those being sibling incest. 4% admit to cheating. 12% admit to bestiality, mostly with dogs. 3% admit to masturbation. 1% admit to having sex with a teacher or student. And 2% admit to homosexuality. Now, those are the statistics of those who admit to these acts. Now, how many don't admit to those acts or just didn't take part in the survey? I'm sure the numbers are relatively high, because if you look up some of these taboos online, you will find numerous porn sites that supply such content or offer fantasy content on those subjects, and the statistical ratings in regards to the demand for that content is relatively high. It's all right there. You can see the statistics online. Just type in the statistics for that shit and it'll come right up. So yes, the line between what we as a society deem moral and lawfully acceptable has in fact become blurred. Because think about it. prior to the civil rights movement with Martin Luther King, things like interracial relationships were wrong. They were taboo. No, don't touch. Same with homosexuality. And, you know, our standards in television and whatnot. All of that changed over the course of time. And we have, in retrospect, lowered our standards as to what's not acceptable in society. That's just the way it is. So we can't go getting pissed off at somebody who brings this up. You know, if you got a problem with it, then voice your opinion. You know, it's your world. Take a stand if you see something you don't like. But don't get pissed off at somebody else for giving you a slap in the face of reality. You know, there's always going to be somebody who's going to say something you don't like. There's always going to be somebody speaking truth. And oftentimes, the truth is going to be something that you're not going to want to hear. But, like I said, if you don't like it, take a stand and do something about it. That's all there is to it. Don't bitch at others for speaking the truth. That's all I got to say. Till next time, this is the Tin Man with the Resistance. If you're watching this, you are the Resistance.